Almost 80 to 90% of the ladies who attend my consultation do have a vitamin D deficiency. Almost everyone you meet is engaged on a smartphone. This will lead to neck stiffness. This will lead to early onset of spondylitis.
सर्जरी से इंडिया में लोग बहुत डरते हैं. So what do you think about that?
सर्जरी से देखिए,
one of the India's highest distinguished military recognition, the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, from rising to the rank of Major General in the Indian Army to becoming one of the India's most respected orthopedic and robotic joint replacement surgeons, Dr. Major General Amresh Ghai.
I had once operated on a lady who had not walked for 12 years and she had a grotesque, both knee deformities. When the first time when she was brought to my chamber, I did both the knee replacements in the same setting. And 6 weeks later, this lady sent me a video. The way she was walking, she was almost flying like a swan. Teenage girl sustained multiple injuries because of an accident. The look and despair on the mother's face when this young girl was admitted in the ICU, and the way she was standing with folded hands, I had to tell her, please don't do that. She'll be fine. She'll walk out of this hospital. I assure you that. And that's what she did. They ought to realize that life is motion and motion is life. One has to remain mobile. One has to remain active.
Today's guest is someone whose life has been dedicated to two extraordinary missions. First, serving the nation in uniform, and then serving humanity in a white coat. From rising to the rank of Major General in the Indian Army to becoming one of the India's most respected orthopedic and robotic joint replacement surgeons, his journey is a masterclass in discipline, excellence, and leadership. Over the last 3 decades, he has helped thousands of patients walk again, return to sports, overcome pain, and reclaim their independence. His expertise spans robotic joint replacement, sports injuries, arthroscopy, complex trauma, and advanced orthopedic care. He has trained across India, the United States, and Australia, authored numerous research papers, mentored future surgeons, and has been honored with one of the India's highest distinguished military recognition, the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal. But what fascinates me the most is that while technology in medicine has evolved dramatically, one thing has remained constant: his belief that movement is freedom and a pain-free life is something that every individual deserves. So he's none other than Dr. Major General Amresh Ghai. So without wasting any more time, let's welcome sir to our show, Mic Pe Milenge. Sir, thank you so much for being here, taking out your precious time for us and sharing the knowledge and imparting the knowledge that we'll be doing today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So, sir, starting off with a very basic question indeed, right? You've been both a surgeon and a soldier. And, looking back in the history and the kind of industry that you've been in, how much has the army life impacted your personal life, or be it your professional life? What all lessons have you taken that are still there with you?
Look, being in the army, the first thing that you imbibe from the forces is the discipline,
Right.
the resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Your aims, your goals, your vision is always very well carved out and you strive harder for it.
True that.
So that's what I've imbibed in my surgical practice as well. I've always set goals for myself. I've always had a vision for my patients. All in all, army has made me what I am today.
Right, indeed. But does that reflect in your discipline, in your mindset too?
Of course, yes.
So I really wanted to understand why orthopedics, like why this certain niche that you really picked upon.
Firstly, it covers the entire spectrum of human life, starting rather from newborns to the geriatric age group. The ambit is wide and open. Each and every age group is your patient. Secondly, orthopedics patients are usually mentally very alive. They're mentally very focused. But it's the disability which is crippling.
Right.
So therefore, to tackle that disability and to make them more able-bodied and get them back on their feet has been a unmotivating ride.
Are you proud of the fact that you chose this rather than any other field?
Even my next birth, I'll do the same.
Really? God. Okay, and what is the sort of experiences that you've had with people all this while, that it's been almost 30 years now?
It's these people who have made me what I am today. My patients have taught me. I've learned because of them. I've learned with them. I owe them everything.
Hmm.
Your patient is your best teacher.
And is there any biggest lesson that you've learned? Any
I've
narrative?
always believed in the fact that this patient could be mine. And that's what I've always taught my students, that the person in front of you could be your own, could be your own blood, your mother, your father, your wife, your children, your friend, your brother. So treat them like one. You'll never go wrong.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful way to look at things. And I would wish that more and more people would think the same way.
I hope so. I too
Through
believe
this.
so.
But is there, everybody has a mission, a motive, an agenda of what they're doing in their lives, right? If you could summarize that of what you're doing and why you're doing, what would be your mission statement?
My mission statement is pertaining to my specialty, converting disability to ability.
Oh,
Giving back the person motion, because life is motion, motion is life.
true. And when you get that done for people, how do you feel about it?
And I just feel a little glad.
I can see that very clearly. But, sir, all this while you've, talked to all sorts of people, all age groups, all, I don't know, genders, probably. Do you evolve your psychology with time? How much do you grow? How much mature do you get over time?
With time, you learn to exercise patience. As surgeons, we are very spontaneous. We are short in patience. As with time, you become more mature, you gain more experience, and with maturity and experience, you learn to become more patient. And that's the key to being a very good doctor.
Right. But do you think, like any layman who doesn't understand the dynamics of your industry, do you think that this field is still a little underrated when it comes to taking care of your health or being aware about the industry? Is
Yes,
it?
very much. Very much.
True that.
I'm a very strong proponent of the fact that we are all living in a bubble. Health-wise, we are not very conscientious.
Yeah, because we are worrying about more things like having protein intake or probably mental health. But what about this? How much of awareness have you seen around you?
The awareness about your musculoskeletal system is very, very much. Rather, I would say that people have now started becoming a little more conscientious than what they were earlier. But then still, there is a lot to be gained. At least now people have started getting investigated, have started talking about sunshine time. Earlier it was not there.
It was never
So
there.
that wisdom is dawning, but then we are still very far away.
Maybe we, in a good way, be thankful to the digital era that's slapping us with tons of knowledge, maybe.
And of course, investigative facilities are far more readily available. Today, the healthcare sector has gone to patients' doorsteps. So all that has made life much more simpler.
But one more thing that is very, I think, something that I would like to throw light on, that we are probably feeling like that people are aging too fast these days. I don't know, maybe it's just in the head, but people are complaining with issues of what they used to complain at 60s, in their 30s. So what's going wrong? What's happening?
We have not been very intelligent, or rather, we've not been very sensitized towards our musculoskeletal well-being. As I mentioned earlier, yes, now things have started changing, but we are still very far away. Look, why we are aging so fast is your body is based on your musculoskeletal system. All the rest of your organs are all inside. And the musculoskeletal system is the one that is going to carry you till the time one is alive. Not caring for your bones, not caring for your muscles, not caring for the well-being of your joints is obviously going to propel you towards early aging or degeneration, as we would put it medically.
And have you seen any change in the graph of the kind of age groups that are coming to you as a patient that earlier you used to?
The promising part is now it's the younger people who have started availing our services. They are concerned about their neck pains, especially people who have a sedentary lifestyle or desk jobs. So as and when they have these neck pains or back pains, they're getting a little concerned, cautious as to why it's happening, because they do realize that they are on the other side of the spectrum, on the younger side of the spectrum. So that's a very healthy sign. So once they meet us, once they get sensitized that probably their proteins and their vitamins and their minerals intake has been insufficient all this while, based on certain investigations that we carry out, then they would probably start taking remedial actions. And in generations to come, we'll have a more healthier, the newer, older generation. The generation which is now in 20s and 30s, by the time they reach 40s and 60s, they'd be more healthier than what we are seeing now.
So I think there are two sides of every coin, right? I would say, as you were very optimistic about how the young generation are aware now. But don't you think the whole crisis that is happening around the smartphone era, right? People spending hours and hours, and the postures and the backs and the necks that are suffering. Don't you think Okay, being aware is one, but the world that we are living in, don't
Yeah,
you
even
think?
I'm quite worried about it. Not only as a doctor, but also as a father.
Indeed.
Almost everyone you meet is engaged on a smartphone. Now, this will lead to neck stiffness. This will lead to early onset of spondylitis. This prevents a person from indulging in physical activities because you're so glued to the small screen. Everything you started, reaching out to the phone, so you stop exercising. You stop, fetching out to the world. Everything is available on the click of a button. You don't
Right.
have to visit the marketplaces. You don't have to visit libraries. You don't have to go to playgrounds. You generally indulge in physical well-being because this takes most of your time.
And affecting a lot of our daily movement.
It will augur early onset of osteoporosis as far as ladies are concerned. For children, it lead to more obesity. Their intake of vitamins and minerals would get affected because they're not playing. They are becoming more of couch potatoes. And likewise, this leads to overweight because you're not indulging in any physical activity. So this leads to overweight problems. Overweight will lead to early onset of arthritis. So it's a vicious cycle actually. And with arthritis, the mobility will get further reduced. So as the mobility gets further reduced, the only way that you're going to pass your time is again go back to the small screen.
True.
It's a vicious cycle.
Absolutely.
We need to discipline ourselves as far as the usage of the smartphone is concerned.
Any tips and tricks that you would like to give our viewers?
Differentiate in the sense that when you're in the office, when there is a need for you to use it, please use it. But there should be times when you return back home, or there should be times in the daytime. Let's say for about 1 to 2 hours, don't use it. At least you don't use it. If you have a caller, attend a call. But for you to just always keep opening your WhatsApp to check whether a message has come or whether you want to send something, you will get addicted. So you have to break that addiction. That I'd leave it to the good judgment of anyone concerned. How would you actually end up reducing that habit? But the imperative, the writing on the wall is that you need to impose self-discipline as far as smartphones are concerned.
But if this goes on and on, by what age can people actually see the signs of this impacting their health?
As early as 20 to 30s.
What?
Why not children? Even today, I get children who come with backaches and children who come with neck pains, and their parents are constantly cribbing about the fact that the child is always on the phone. The moment he comes back home, he's glued to the phone. If he doesn't have a phone in his hand, he won't eat.
And what do you think about the entire Gen Z hustling culture, where everybody is earning definitely more, but spending even more in hospitals today?
It's becoming an unavoidable evil, actually.
Do you keep guiding, keep through
Yeah, of course,
enlightening?
yes, of course, yes, as a father also.
Yeah.
And of course, as an orthopedic surgeon, but then it has to be a collective effort of the entire family. And conscientiousness has to come from each and every one of us that we need to, discipline our usage of phone.
Right.
We need to go back to the yester eras.
What are the few habits that we have definitely ignored these days, looking at the kind of patients that you are seeing?
Lack of exercise. Earlier, games were a part and parcel of a child's adolescence.
This will definitely come from you being in the army. I think.
Yeah.
This had to be there in the in your head. I had to hear.
Yeah, so it's lack of exercise, lack of indulging in sports, lack of indulging in traveling, for that matter, exploring, going for treks, adventure. Those kind of things have taken a back seat now.
In fact, another very mind-boggling thing that I recently observed is that the whole gym culture, right? It looks healthy on the outside, but when I read into it, I was doing my research, I realized that there are many practices that, from the industry that you're in, there are a lot of dangerous things involved for the longer term perspective. So what do you think about
you see, a person has to decide as to why a person is visiting the gym. Whether it's for the cardiovascular, whether it's basically just a cardio workout, or whether it's for a younger age group, for that matter, the people in the teenagers and the 20s and 30s, whether they are into muscle strengthening, muscle building. When I talk about the mid 40s to 50s, say up to 60, then the regime is to stay fit. So the grades of the gymming that you need to do has to vary from what is your aim and objective and what age do you belong to. Let's say if there is a 20 to 30-year-old person, a young adult, male or female, who visits the gym, the aim should be to have a healthy body. The aim should be to have a well-contoured body. The aim should not be to try and build hulk of a muscle, because in order to do so, you'll reach out for supplements, protein supplements, which may or may not be healthy for you. You need to decide as to what has to be one's aim. Now, when you cross the age of 40, Gradually, the degeneration of joints has started taking place because there is wear and tear of the joint cartilages of the weight-bearing joints. So one needs to be a little cautious as to not to overstrain your lower limbs. Straining one's lower limbs would augur early onset of arthritis, would augur early onset of degenerative changes in most of the weight-bearing joints, and especially if that's coupled with an inadequate intake of vitamin D and calcium.
Okay.
And a poor musculoskeletal structure. So it'll push towards early onset of these degenerative changes. So the mid 40s and 60s have to be up to 60s have to be careful. Now after 60s it should be more of a cardio workout, burn out calories, avoid overweight. Of course, avoiding weight reduction or keeping weight under control should be done across all the age groups, undoubtedly. But at a certain age, one tends to put on a little more weight because of the body's changing hormonal milieu. And in that case, the focus of the gymming has to be more towards exercises or more towards those kind of gymming usage of equipment, which are more towards your cardio prevention, weight reduction. That age, one has to go lesser on building muscles.
But we're seeing these videos these days, these 90, 80-year-old women who are doing a lot of heavy weightlifting in the gyms, and this is just some trend going on.
Beyond a certain limit, it would not be very beneficial for them.
Obviously, but that's what we say. That's what the expertise is meant for, and people kind of don't pay attention on that. So that's why we are having this podcast. Yet again, so I wanted to know, how does our bone health with time work? Like if you could explain this in maybe digits or graphs or terms, that how does our bone health varies age to age, and how much of focus and attention does that require?
When you talk about bone health, you talk about calcium and vitamin D. Now, calcium and vitamin D, firstly, are two different entities. Calcium forms a part of your bones.
Okay.
Vitamin D is the carrier which will help utilize the calcium. We need to focus on the intake of both calcium as well as vitamin D. We need to focus on intake of minerals. All this would not bear sufficiently good results if it is not coupled with some amount of muscle strengthening, some amount of exercising. Because when one exercises, it mobilizes calcium from the bones into the blood and subsequently it gets replaced back.
Okay.
So in order to have a wholesomely healthy body, not only is consumption very important or the awareness about consumption is very important, but also the fact you need to couple it up with reasonable amount of exercises based on one's age, based upon one's body structure, based upon one's weight, keeping that also in mind.
Or even their medical history, maybe.
And their medical history, of course, you're
Right,
very right. Medical history.
And what about women's health when, we're seeing a lot of signs of osteoporosis?
They're the ones who are most prone from the time the regular menstrual cycle, which brings about hormonal changes throughout their life. And finally, they reach a stage of menopause. And subsequently, after menopause, there is a huge turbulent change in the body's hormonal milieu. And unless and until their bones and the joints have been well kept till now, they've got themselves investigated every 6 months at least. And then based on doctor's advice, taken reasonable supplements, they would be sliding towards osteoporosis, which I find almost in 80 to 90% of the ladies who attend my consultation do have a vitamin D deficiency or their bone density lacks.
And what can this do to them on longer run if they're not?
They are more predisposed to development of degenerative conditions like arthritis, backaches, early fatigue, muscle cramps, night cramps.
And we see this so common because this has been a new normal in Indians now, right? Everything is normal for them. So I would say that.
But then they have now started realizing that it's not a part of aging. There is something wrong which has happened in the body. And I've seen that the consultations have increased.
Wow.
People have started, reaching out to the doctors to find out as to what's the cause of these vague aches, pains, easy tiredness, easy fatigability, backaches, neck pains, joint pains.
Now that we're already talking about patients, I would like to double tap on that and ask this in Hindi. This reaches out to everybody in tier 1, tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities for sake. Surgery se India mein log bahut darte hain, right? Whenever you tell them surgery, they'll Google, they'll do YouTube. हर नेबर रिलेटिव के पास जाते हैं और बोलते हैं कैसे अवॉइड की जा सकती है एंड इवन लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस से क्या अवॉइड की जा सकती है. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट दैट?
सर्जरी से देखिए हर एक इंसान डरता है. सर्जरी से मैं भी डरता हूँ. सर्जरी एक बड़ी चीज है. एक ये कोई छोटा चीज नहीं होती है सर्जरी।
तो आप कहते हैं डरना सही है?
ये हमारी हिंदुस्तानी फितरत में है और मैं इस चीज से, मैं मरीज के इस बात से बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ कि उन्हें डर लगता है। वो सर्जरी के लिए
हाँ।
1-2 बार कंसल्टेशन कराते हैं, जो कि उनका हक है, जो कि उन्हें कराना भी चाहिए। लेकिन हाँ, उनको इस बात का एहसास होना चाहिए कि अगर समय से अगर वो एक ऑपरेशन नहीं कराया जाएगा, सो आगे चल के वो उनको और दुविधा में डालेगा।
बिल्कुल, डेफिनिटली। तो जब आप ये बात या ये चीज़ें उन्हें समझाते हैं, सो पेशेंट्स अंडरस्टैंड? इतना
उन
आसान होता
उन
है?
पेशेंट्स को थोड़ा पेशेंटली डील करना होता है। शायद कुछ वक़्त की ज़रूरत होती है सबको,
जी।
एक निर्णय लेने के लिए। जैसे हमें कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में बोले, हमें कोई पैसा कहीं पर खर्चा करने के लिए बोले, तो हम उसका निर्णय उसी समय नहीं लेते हैं और नहीं, ना ही कभी लेना चाहिए। उसके लिए वापस जा कर के तहकीकात करनी चाहिए, पढ़ना चाहिए, समझना चाहिए क्या चीज़ बताई गई है। और जब खुद का मस्तिष्क कहता है कि हाँ, जो डॉक्टर ने ये सलाह दी थी या जो मुझे ये सलाह मिली है, ये सलाह सही है मेरे लिए, तब उस समय आप एक सही निर्णय लीजिए।
तो अपना टाइम लीजिए, लेकिन सही डिसीजन।
बिल्कुल, टाइम लेना आपका हक है, टाइम लेना आपका फंडामेंटल राइट है और मैंने हमेशा अपने मरीज़ों को यही, उनको इस बात के बारे में हमेशा उनकी बात से मैं सहमत रहा हूँ कि आप अपना समय लीजिए। को आप मेरे पास में आते हैं, एज़ अ डॉक्टर मैं आपको ट्रीटमेंट बताता हूँ।
राइट।
वो ट्रीटमेंट आपके लिए लाज़मी नहीं कि उस ट्रीटमेंट के का अमल आप उसी समय करें। आप घर जाएँ, आप अपने परिवार वालों से सलाह-मशवरा करें, अपने घर के निजी हालातों पे ध्यान दें और उसके हिसाब से उसको प्लान करें।
यू नो वन थिंग दैट वी रियलाइज विद टाइम, दैट लोग जानना चाहते हैं कि क्या नी सर्जरीज पूरे तरीके से रिप्लेस की जा सकती हैं या अवॉइड की जा सकती है 100%? इज देयर एनी वे वी कैन डू दैट?
इसका कोई कॉपी बुक फ़ॉर्मूला नहीं है।
हाँ जी।
ये डिपेंड करता है पेशेंट टू पेशेंट कंडीशन के ऊपर। पेशेंट की आर्थराइटिस या डिजेनरेटिव कंडीशन बहुत एडवांस्ड है, तो उसको अवॉइड करने का कोई पॉइंट्स नहीं है। बिकॉज़ उसके साथ ही जुड़ा हुआ है पेशेंट का ओवरवेट हो जाना, उसका लैक ऑफ मोबिलिटी, उसका पूरी लाइफ़स्टाइल चेंज हो रही है।
दैट्स stupidity maybe in a way.
या इट इज़।
It is.
See, joint replacement surgery by and large is a life changer.
Hmm.
If done for the right patient, for the right indication, by the right surgeon, using the right technique, it's a 10 on 10.
एक और चीज सर, जैसे हम सुनते आ रहे हैं कि लोग कहते हैं 50 के बाद यू नो एनीथिंग दैट रिक्वायर्स लॉट ऑफ एनर्जी या एक्टिव लाइफस्टाइल रुक जाता है, योर लाइफ स्लोज डाउन। हाउ मच डू यू एग्री टू दैट?
I believe in just the opposite. Life starts after 50.
व्हाट?
That's the time when you actually, if you look at it this way, it's after 50 closing to 60s, one reaches some age of retirement, should you call it, or the family size is over, the family responsibility is over, and that's when couples want to travel. They want to travel across the globe. That's when parents have become grandparents, so you want to visit your grandchildren, you need to explore cities, you need to indulge in adventure because now you have the time.
Right.
And probably now you also have the finances which will afford you. So life starts after 50. That's why I said life is motion, motion is life. It never ends.
I think we got the title of your episode, Life Starts After 50.
I guess so.
So, sir, all this while, you know, it's been so many years that you've been serving people, right? I would like to know, is there any story, be it any case study or anything in this entire journey that got really close to you emotionally and you would like to share?
It's been a long career spanning over 35 years of service, army service, and close to about 2.5 decades of orthopedic practice. So there have been a lot of patients who have made an impact on me, or rather, I've treated them for whether it was fractures, multiple fractures, or whether it was the arthroscopies, the ligament reconstructions, which I did for them, or whether, of course, joint replacements, which I did. If I was to put it under a pan umbrella, it would be something like I have seen that despair and that look of helplessness in their pre-treatment or pre-surgery time, that look in their eyes,
Oh.
that look of having practically lost everything, and the hope with which they would look at you when you were at their bedside, when you were visiting them. And then gradually, as the treatment was done, as the surgery was done, the way they came back on their 2 feet, how they started walking, and when they actually regain back their rhythm of walking, when they regain back their strength, and when they would visit me
Wow.
after, say, about a month or after 2 months, the look in the eyes, the smile on the face, the confidence that I would see in them, They're actually two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And that's what has always motivated me, has always pushed me beyond boundaries of physical endurance to keep doing for patients. And that's why I had mentioned to you my life's mission statement also is converting disability to ability. Now, I found disability in all manners, whether it was a bedridden, fractured patient, or whether it was someone who had a ligament injury post sports injuries, because in the armed forces, we used to encounter them almost on a regular daily basis, or whether it was the degenerated joints or the absolutely deformed joints. I had once operated on a lady who had not walked for 12 years, and she had a grotesque, both knee deformities. When the first time when she was brought to my chamber, she was assisted by her son and by her daughter-in-law, including my staff. I did both the knee replacements in the same setting. And 6 weeks later, this lady sent me a video. The way she was walking, she was almost flying like a swan. And I had to tell her that slow down, otherwise you'll end up falling down and fracturing your bone. But there was nothing stopping her.
Wow.
In an instance, I found a retired veteran. I was standing outside my chamber and he came on a motorcycle and he put the motorcycle on the stand. His wife was still sitting on the motorcycle. She couldn't walk. She had both deformed knee joints and one hip, which was diseased. So I first did hip replacement surgeries, then did the knee replacement surgeries, and the look thereafter. Thereafter, as they would walk into my office, they would look at me in the eye, and the smile that was on their face that I had to actually, you couldn't make out. If I asked a couple of people, can you make out what joint have I replaced in her? Well, no one could guess. There was one of my own colleagues, a nurse who was from the military nursing service, and I did one of her knees. I asked her, okay, ma'am, which knee did I replace of yours? So there are a lot of these ones.
Wow.
There was once this teenage girl, or rather adolescent girl, sustained multiple injuries because of an accident. Close to about practically every bone in her body had broken, and the look and despair on the mother's face when this young girl was admitted in the ICU. And as we were walking into the ICU, she was army officer's wife, and the way she was standing with folded hands, I had to tell her, please don't do that. She'll be fine. She'll walk out of this hospital. I assure you that. And that's what she did.
God. And that's so true that God, when people say that doctors are nothing but God sent angels. So wow.
We are
I have
just,
goosebumps right now.
we are just, no, not really God's, but actually, yes, it's His blessing and His vision that you end up doing something for a patient.
Indeed.
And I keep telling a lot of people that we are not doing anything extraordinary. We walked into this with our eyes open. We chose a profession with our eyes open.
Wow.
This is what we are trained for.
I love the kind of mindset that you have and whatever you just shared, sir. But, coming back to something that people are again very intrigued about, the difference between a robotic versus traditional surgery.
See, it's a robotic assisted surgery. With the advent of technology, the robot has assists us in preoperative planning, an accurate size of the implants, whether it's the hip, whether it's the knee, choosing the accurate size of the implant, planning the soft tissue balancing, planning the gaps in the knee joint, the way the hip joint implants would be placed. So it makes a surgeon's job a little easier in the sense that when you are about to start the surgery, you have a plan in mind. Then while one is operating, it's with robotic assistant that you can possibly, actually do it while one is operating and then see the numerical figures on the screen in front of you. So you know that you are very close to that precision. The robot takes great care in the way it handles the tissues. So therefore, the tissue trauma is lesser. The blood loss is much lesser. So therefore, the pain relief is much more. So your recovery is much more faster. Your hospitalization is much more lesser. Would rather be a little more lesser. The incision that one gives in a robotic surgery is comparatively can be a little smaller because most of the job has already been planned. And with experience, a robotic surgeon can actually give smaller incisions, more cosmetically aesthetic. But also like to mention that the traditional surgery is a gold standard. A traditional joint replacement done for the right patient, for the right indication, by the right trained surgeon using the right technology is as effective in the long run as much as a robotic surgery is.
Okay.
So you cannot take that credit from the traditional surgery because it is still by far the gold standard, and it is still something which every surgeon is also very excited about.
So there's no good and bad or right or wrong.
There is no goodness or there is no drawbacks as far as a traditional surgery is concerned. Short term benefits of a robotic assisted surgery are far there because it is technology based. It is technology rather assisted. Whereas in the long run, both equalize. So it depends on a person's budget, on a person's actual preferences. One who does not get a robotic joint replacement done has not been cheated of a particular craft of medical sciences. It's just that he has chosen between black and white.
Now, moving ahead towards sports nutrition or nutrition in general now, I would like to understand, for runners or people who are quite active, endurance runners, we say, that how much of, importance does vitamins hold for their lives, and what's the role, and how are you seeing the picture today in the sense of deficiency, how people are aware? What do you think about it?
Runners, of course, and marathon runners, of course, are very aware. They are very conscientious. That's why they are indulging in this sport. See, for runners and athletes and marathon runners, there are three types of food which we all know of: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Now, when you talk about carbohydrates, it's about glycogen, which is stored and which is released in the form of glucose, which the runner uses or utilizes when one is running. 50 to 60% of the food composition has to be carbs.
Okay.
That's carbohydrates. Balance 20% has to be proteins and fats because those two are also equally essential.
Right.
Now, when you talk about vitamins, so vitamin D, calcium intake, magnesium, and besides that, iron also has a great role to play as far as athleticism is concerned, as far as these all have to be taken in a desired proportion, scientifically, medically, ethically planned.
And not just some chat GPT knowledge.
No.
How against are you to that narrative that people chat GPT everything today being a doctor?
It's my biggest enemy now.
Oftenly do you see the deficiency of vitamin D in your patients these days?
Almost 80 to 90% of my patients who come for me for consultation for various kinds of aches, pains, and disabilities. At the outset, I always encourage in getting the relevant investigations done. And I do find that there is a lack of vitamin D. And in my clinical practice over years, as I've addressed the vitamin D in various forms, because it all has to be, firstly, you have to realize that it's a kind of a preventable disease. So firstly, get investigated. And secondly, based on an investigation report, start consuming vitamin D and calcium. Both vitamin D and calcium are two separate entities.
People often confuse them together.
Yes,
Really?
They do. That difference is a little blur and a little bizarre. So they do. These are two different things, and they both express themselves in two different forms of symptomatology. Whereas calcium deficiency leads more towards osteoporosis, muscle pains, aches, cramps. A lot of times, especially women who are very susceptible to it, would come and complain about night cramps and pain in the calf, lack of sleep at night or disturbed sleep at night.
What are the most common signs that one should not ignore at all when it comes to
easy fatigability, sense of that well-being, sense of that one gets up in the morning, one expects to get up very fresh. One gets up in the morning not very fresh, and over the day, the exhaustion sets in much more faster than what is expected in a person of that particular age. So one is seriously actually looking at a vitamin deficiency or a calcium deficiency. So calcium deficiency would express itself in the form of osteoporosis that a lady should be very careful about. Whereas vitamin D deficiency is very, very, very important. It will augur more towards early onset of arthritis, early onset of degenerative conditions of the bones. It will also augur to entities which are called as degenerative tears. One goes for a walk with a pet, for example, and the pet suddenly, pulls on the leash, and one ends up hurting one's shoulder. Or let's say one sustains a kind of a blunt injury to the shoulder, and a degenerative tear would probably lead to a rotator cuff tear or would lead to some form of a muscle tear. So these are because of vitamin D deficiency. So both of them have to be thoughtfully catered for when one is advancing from the 30s onwards.
And, being an expert, a doctor here, what are the few things through which someone's daily intake of vitamin D or calcium, maybe diet or their lifestyle, can be completely checked upon? a layman, not even if somebody who's an athlete.
So this is when you can go back to your friend, the Chat GPT. The Chat GPT would give you enough information on that, and I wouldn't mind that, of course. But since you asked me that question, so vitamin D is more in non-vegetarian, and fish is a very rich source of vitamin D. So salmon and some forms of yogurts, some almonds. So they are very rich forms of vitamin D, and calcium comes in again in yogurt and paneer and milk. So these are various rich forms. So usually to this particular question, I leave it to a person, because the culinary preferences, the caste preferences decides what form of food they would like to eat. And then also the fact that we are Indians, so it's easier for vegetarians to imbibe most of these essential nutrients in the form of cereals, legumes, dals. As far as non-vegetarians are concerned, as I've mentioned, fish is a rich source. So I leave it to the patients to kind of themselves. I can just give them a broad guideline, and then of course it's their personal choices. One thing that you must have seen these days, सब multivitamins ले रहे हैं आजकल. Everybody is consuming multivitamins. Everybody has their brand or their friend who is recommended some other supplement. How much are you against? A word of caution about the protein supplements, especially since you had earlier asked about people who would visit the gym and what form of exercises. So if one is looking at muscle building and using protein supplements or those powders and mixes, you have to be cautious. You should remember the fact that they have sweeteners which will add to the body weight firstly, or they may have some heavy metals as a part of the components of the powder, which would have a deleterious effect on the kidneys. It should be under medical supervision with after consultation of a doctor and by using some branded products. And as far as multivitamins are concerned, as I mentioned earlier, so vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, the trace elements, magnesium, manganese, iron, these are very essential for a wholesome well-being. So you support the idea of consuming daily? I would, yes, they are supplements. Now you yourself use the word supplement. So they are supplements and they cannot substitute for regular exercises, for some form of running, should I say, or walking, should I say. Or even your balanced diet. Or your balanced diet, of course. So some form of exercise and of course diet, yes, plays a very major role. It cannot replace them. So they are supplements, but they are essential supplements and they ought to be taken. You must have seen a lot of athletes or sportsmen coming to you and asking for the best nutrition guidelines. Or so usually I give them a combination of omega fatty acids, vitamin E, calcium, vitamin D, and of course these trace elements. One would probably end up consuming 3 or 4 types of different supplements regularly, and I encourage people to take them at breakfast time, because most of them should be taken in the morning, and it's a morning regime which is always a set regime. Thereafter the whole day is usually is not in one's control. So one of the sensible piece of advice which I give to people is have it placed on your breakfast table, have it with your breakfast. You will never forget it. Whether it's your daily dose of calcium, whether it's your weekly dose of calcium, or whether it's a daily dose of these multivitamins, but they are essential and they are required. So, sir, just to summarize, right, I would also want to know that what are the best sources of vitamin D and calcium that you would recommend? Vitamin D rich foods are like, again, it depends on vegetarians and people who can consume non-veg food. So fish and fish products are very good sources of vitamin D. And vitamin D enhanced cereals are available now. Tofu is a rich source of vitamin D. Eggs are a rich source of vitamin D. Salmon is a rich source of vitamin D. So far as calcium is concerned, most of our Indian diet is loaded with calcium, provided people consume it, because the era is of people are turning vegan these days. Vegans, and of course that is there, but then people are still resorting because of the work culture. One doesn't get a chance to have a wholesome 3 meals a day. But nevertheless, notwithstanding that, yogurt, cheese are good sources of vitamin D. Milk, the age-old milk, is a very rich source of calcium. Of vitamin D, calcium. Cereals are a very rich source of calcium. A mixture of both of these can possibly take care of your nutritional, natural sources of vitamin D and calcium. What about iron, though? That's a very good question, because it's a very pertinent source of nutrition. Iron is required for the red blood cells, and red blood cells, as we all know, helps in carrying oxygen. Correct. And oxygen to the muscles. So, especially when we're talking about athletes and marathon runners, they need to have a good intake of iron. Women in particular, because of the physiological changes they are more susceptible to iron deficiency, so they need to have iron. Iron is available in our Indian diet, in cereals, in green leafy vegetables, almonds. It's very easily available, but
Right.
it should be very thoughtfully taken. I would also like to emphasize that vitamin C coupled along with iron is an important combination, because vitamin C helps in carrying the iron. They both work as like a buddy. In the form of vitamin C is available in all your citrus fruits, in all your khatta. Adequate amount of vitamin C not only helps in boosting up the immunity and is good for the immune system, but also is very helpful for the usage of iron.
Oh, so they're like, as you mentioned, the buddies.
Yeah.
Okay, but sir, there are still a lot of athletes or runners who we can specifically say they would like to know if you could frame a day in their life of their nutrition, right? Starting from the breakfast on the day of the run to the finish line, to even fueling themselves during the race. So, how would you frame or structure that?
See, as I had mentioned earlier, uh, and a good amount of carbohydrates are required by the runners, and thus likewise also proteins and fats are required. So up till 3 to 4 hours before a run, a good meal like carbohydrate laden uh, food should be consumed by them. Up to 4 hours that would suffice, and then subsequently, as they come closer to the running time, banana would be a good source of carbs, which would later on get converted into energy that they would use. And equally important is a snack they could possibly take. So they could just have a cracker or something while during the run, so that they don't lose on the energy part and they don't lose on the readily available glucose, because the glycogen is getting converted into glucose. So they need to provide themselves a ready source of glucose. So these crackers are a good source. And post run time is also a very important time that should not be overlooked. So once again, that is a time when, say, after about an hour, once the body has cooled down, once the heart rate has returned to normal, sensible eating at that point of time is also essential.
Important for the recovery.
For the recovery, and of course, hydration.
Yeah.
The bottom line is adequate hydration has to be done.
True.
So it depends on what's the distance that one is running and how one is tuned into, has a body structure which is tuned into running. So that also helps in planning your diet as far as preparation for the run is concerned.
There any lessons that orthopedics has taught you or that you reflect upon in your personal life, or any lessons that you've learned for yourself that you say as a green flag or a red flag in your personal life? Is there any?
When I started my orthopedic practice as a first year resident, so that's the time I abandoned the use of a two-wheeler because of the number of fractures that I used to see. So that, of course, is one of the practices which I have followed over the period of time.
Okay. And going back in the history, being from an army background, right? It's not only about the muscle building or the fitness. It's never about that. It's about the mindset, right? So is there any, tips and tricks or anything, advices that you would like to give the aspirants who are aspiring to be a part of it in the near future?
It's a common sense that you need to have a healthy body. You need to have a healthy musculoskeletal system. So firstly, the candidates should understand that they are dealing with two parts. Our body is composed of muscles, ligaments, tendons. They form one part of it. And the second part, equally important part, is the skeletal system. That's the bones and the joints.
Okay.
So they need to work out. They need to have a reasonably good muscle mass. They need to have a toned body. They need to have a stamina so that they can endure the entrance medical
Training
fitness
period.
tests and, of course, endure conditions that they would be subjected to. Besides that, they have to take care of their bones and the joints. So the right stock of calciums and has to be taken. It wholesomely has to be a solid package. You cannot have a strong mind and a weak body. And likewise, the other aspect is also true. You cannot have a strong body and a weak mind. So
And that's what the tests are for, right?
that's what would make them a balanced army person. And that's what most of
I
our
still
soldiers
remember
are.
what we call as OLQs, right?
Officer-like qualities.
Yes. So I've been there, gave a test myself, so I know. Apart from that, one more thing, there was any one lesson that people could pick up on from this podcast that they could implicate in their lives and that would completely transform their overall well-being? What would that lesson be?
They ought to realize that life is motion and motion is life. One has to remain mobile, one has to remain active. One cannot subject oneself to just staying indoors and just sitting, because there is so much in life that one is missing out on. Your health is your wealth. That's an age old idiom and
Right.
has never lost its relevance. They need to be conscientiously aware of the fact that there is a body structure that they need to respect. One is always worried about the sugar part of it, diabetes na ho jaye. One is always worried about the cholesterol part of it, heart disease na ho jaye. You know, you are very concerned, you're very conscientious about so many aspects of the medical illnesses that one has encountered. But unfortunately, wisdom has not dawned upon your musculoskeletal system. People don't realize that this is what is going to take you through your entire life.
Right.
From the time we start walking till the time we are actually of the age when we don't walk that much, but we are still mobile. Our upper limbs are still moving. Your limbs are all about bones and joints.
Right.
So they are again two different entities. You need to take care of the bones and then you take care of the joints.
True.
And only then will one would lead a healthy life. One, or rather, one should consider themselves that they're leading a healthy life.
Indeed.
But there is a very lack of respect as far as their own body is concerned.
I think the message and the lesson has been delivered.
Yeah.
But sir, if you're ready, can we do like a kind of a rapid fire on your reaction on a few situations? Are you okay with that?
Firing, yes.
Okay. So all you need to do is you have to react whether it's a good habit, a bad, or it's just a myth. Okay. So starting off, one is sitting with crossed legs on a chair.
It's a very good habit.
Okay. Cracking knuckles.
It's harmless.
Is it? Okay. Floor पे बैठना, धरती पे बैठना.
Very good habit.
Indian toilets versus Western toilets.
Personal preferences.
Or doesn't have any implications.
Indian toilets more easily usable by the younger lot, by the younger generation. Elderly obviously would find it difficult. Western is more comfortable to sit in. So therefore now is the era of Anglo-Indian toilets. So there are toilets which are called as Anglo-Indian. So they have a wider platform. So one can actually squat, but it is almost in a sitting posture.
True, true. And sleeping without a pillow.
Depends on the posture that you sleep in.
Okay. But, you know, people in general say it's a healthy habit, is it?
Should not be done by people who suffer from acidity because a reflux takes place and that is harmful. Pregnant ladies would not prefer to sleep without a pillow.
Okay.
Otherwise, people who sleep on their stomach should preferably use a pillow. One is sleeping on one side, then you should use a small pillow. Otherwise, the neck would drop down below the shoulder. That would not be in one's interest. It would strain on the neck.
What's a perfect posture to sleep in?
It's a personal choice.
Okay. Working with the laptop on the bed.
If avoidable, please avoid it.
Heavy school bags.
Up to 10 to 15% of a child's body weight, a bag is enough. More than that should not be done because it tremendously strains on the back and will alter the child's posture because the skeleton is a growing skeleton. It's a softer skeleton, so you'll have spine deformities. So certainly not more than 10 to 15% of the body weight.
10,000 steps every day.
Very good.
Really? Okay.
Life is motion, motion is life. I told you.
Okay, running after 40.
You must. One must.
Really?
It's a big yes.
Okay.
But then it has to now then tighter into more of a mixture of walking and running. But not to stop. Life is motion, motion is life.
God, you're a fan of this line. Protein powders.
Use with caution.
So, sir, the next one is where you can just say yes or no to the statement or give a reasoning if required. Joint pain matlab calcium deficiency.
No, it's more to do with vitamin D deficiency.
Walking से घुटने घिस जाते हैं.
Not fully true.
Knee replacement के बाद लाइफ बहुत restricted हो जाती है.
Not at all.
Young लोगों को तो arthritis होता ही नहीं है.
It can start from 20 to 20 and 30s. Juvenile arthritis.
Weight कम करने से knee pain automatically ठीक हो जाता है.
Not fully, but to a certain extent, yes, it does reduce.
Painkiller खाना treatment होता है.
No, not at all.
Robotic surgery is safer than traditional surgery.
Not fully true.
Okay, as you already said, black and white.
Yeah, it's black and white.
So, sir, this is the last but not the least round. And you either just give a one word or if required, you give the reasoning. So, starting off, first is army or medicine. What do you pick?
In army, I could practice medicine.
Discipline or passion?
Discipline.
Lift or stairs?
Preferably stairs.
Yoga or gym? What do you recommend?
Preferably yoga.
Walking or cycling?
Walking.
One exercise that every Indian should do as per you.
Surya Namaskar.
I do that. One food Indians should eat more.
Legumes, pulses.
One habit Indians should quit today itself.
Maintain a work-life balance.
One age where people should start caring about their joints.
From the 20s.
One celebrity fitness trend that you don't agree with.
Extreme transformation models.
Right.
Losing weight, building muscles just for a role. No way.
Your biggest life lesson from the army.
Value for perspective. Don't sweat for the small stuff.
Success in one word.
Achievement.
Wow.
It's the ultimate culmination of your goals, aims, and objectives.
Indeed. Health in one word.
Wellness.
Legacy in one word.
Lasting impact.
Wow.
The impression that you leave.
Beautiful. So before we end this, there's one more thing I really want to ask you. What is that one piece of advice that you've ever received that you abide by or you really loved?
Learn to be patient. Take your time.
Wow.
Don't be in a hurry.
And who did you get this from?
To start with, my father,
Hmm.
and now from my wife.
Okay. And so before we end this, all I want to say is thank you so much for imparting the right sort of knowledge coming from an expert like you. I think people will reflect upon it. They'll understand the importance of things that you really mentioned today. So thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you very much. I'm humbled and very grateful. God bless us all.
So that's it for today's episode. Guys, if you found this episode really useful, do share with your friends and family because awareness helps a lot of people to save their lives. If you have any doubts to our expert today, do drop a comment below. For consultation, you can reach out to the expert at Max Hospital, Sector 128, Noida. So for any doubts, do comment below and do like, share and subscribe.